Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. Today is going to be a pretty quick video, I think, of, yeah, Artie, of the reading wrap up for all the books I read in August. This is not a particularly long list. I was traveling for the last week in August and for the first week in September and just getting ready for all that travel. I didn't have as much time to read as I normally do. So we only have, 6 books, I think, to talk about today. So without further ado, let's get to it. The first book that I completed in August was by Victoria Aveyard, and that is Realmbreaker. This book is inspired by The Lord of the Rings, except for there's a lot more badass women, and I feel like maybe a larger cast, if I'm remembering everything correctly, than Lord of the Rings, and I've really enjoyed it. I bought this book secondhand, and I still listen to it because I do better in fantasy listening, I feel like. And I also benefited from doing this as a buddy read. So myself and 3 of my friends listened or read this book at the same time. And I found that very helpful because even though I really liked and enjoyed this book, and I would recommend this for readers who enjoy Lord of the Rings, it's also, please don't come for me. It's also much more manageable than Lord of the Rings because there's not secretly 2 books in this one book, and there's not just random entire pages of just song. I love Lord of the Rings. Please don't come for me. But this was definitely more manageable. I think the only thing that was not my cup of tea is there are some time jumps, and at least when I was listening, it wasn't always clear when we were in different points of time. And I would say for the most part, the different POVs, because we did get multiple POVs, and for the most part, I could tell who was who based on what was going on in the descriptions and the voice. But there were a couple of times when there were new characters or characters that I wasn't as familiar with where I thought it was a different character. And that could have been just because I was listening to it. But overall, I gave this 3.75 stars, and I am planning to continue with this trilogy. This one will be probably 1 book a month because I am buddy reading this, so I will be waiting for the rest of my group to move on to book 2. With our next book, I think you'll start to see a theme in my reading and how excited I was for my upcoming travel. And that all starts out with Under Lock and Key. This book takes place in Scotland. If you can't tell from the cover, we have our male main character, Lachlan, wearing a kilt and coming out of a loch. And we have our female main character, Kiana, on dry land in some wellies. Kiana has traveled to Scotland after her father has passed to meet her estranged grandparents and try to find some family connection that she is now sorely missing since her father has passed. Her mother, I don't know if her mother died in childbirth or just when she was young, but she was basically raised by a single dad, and when he got sick, she took care of him. And now that he's gone, she feels like she doesn't have any connection to anyone in this world because her life became being his caretaker. And so she goes to meet her grandparents. And while she's there, she meets Lachlan, who has a curse. Also, if you can't tell from the cover, his curse has something to do with Nessie and the Loch Ness Monster. Um, so Kiana and Lachlan start out as enemies and they become lovers. This is a monster-esque book, if you know, you know. And it is, I feel like, pretty spicy, but I think there's a wonderful plot and it's very cute and adorable. And it just made me giggle and happy and very excited to travel to Scotland myself. And I ended up giving this 4 stars, would definitely recommend. And I actually completely finished this book, was talking to Matt about it, and I was like, oh my God, the title is Under Lock and Key. And I just thought that's a cute, like Scottishy themed title to go with a Scottish romance, which it is, but also it's their nicknames. Lachlan, Loch, Kiana, Key, and I didn't put it together until I had literally finished the book. So if you enjoy that, I think you'll enjoy this book as well. Our next book is a book that I listened to on audio and I got it from the library. And I don't really have any plans of purchasing a physical copy of this book, so it's just going to be floating next to me as the books that I listen to do. And that is Nobody is Supposed to Die at This Wedding. I gave this 2.75 stars, just a little bit below average for what I typically like to read, but still a very good book. It is well written. It's classified as a cozy mystery, I believe, and I would agree that it's mysterious and you're not going to be afraid to fall asleep at night. And there are funny parts. I think the main character, who we have the point of view from, is not always my favorite person. I think in the first book, I found her a little bit more annoying, which is something that I don't love to read when I find the person whose perspective I'm in. Like, I don't agree with a lot of what they do. I find that a challenging read. However, they're funny books, so I decided to give book 2 a fair shot. And you know what? I could even potentially see myself giving a third book a shot and just doing what I did with this book and listening to the audiobook from the library. And I will also say that I found the main character, like, she improved in the second book for me. I found her less annoying. So yeah, like, this actually might, like, I'm talking about it and I'm like, is it 3 stars? Maybe. There are footnotes and it's funny. But yeah, there's just something that at the end of the day didn't hit me as like, this is like an average read for me. But also it was still really great. And I think a lot of people would enjoy that type of humor. Next up, halfway through the month and getting closer to when I was traveling to the UK, I started and finished When a Scot Ties the Knot. Now, I am a huge fan of Carrie Can Read. I love listening to her channel, and I feel like she normally does more sci-fi fantasy books than I do, but I still love listening to her and like getting recommendations. And when she does a romance, which is I think normally when she's traveling, I get really excited. And I found this book through her channel and I loved it so much. So this is a forced proximity marriage of convenience between our main character, Maddie, and our main character, Logan. You are in both of their point of views. And a summary of what happens is what happens, let's say, when you're a shy, awkward young lady who really just prefers the company of her sketchbook and her books, and really herself and sometimes her aunt, who is going to be forced into a season that she doesn't want. Well, maybe you make up a Scottish Highland captain and say that you're engaged. And this lie just tumbles away from you, and now your godfather has bequeathed you a castle in the Highlands so that when your Scottish fiance, because they weren't married, when your Scottish fiance returns from the war, you can be closer to his people. Sounds legit, right? I mean, if I could do that and I was Maddie, I could I could see myself being like, no, I'm good. I'm just gonna live in the Scottish Highlands in a castle surrounded by nature and books, and I'm gonna do my drawings. But what happens when this captain shows up and is like, hey, lassie, let's get married? Well, you get two actually really kind hearted people who just want to see the other person's dreams come true and support them. And you get to watch them fall in love. And I just had a grand time reading this. I will say Logan's last name is Mackenzie. So a lot of the time in the novel, he's called Captain Mackenzie. And I could also be a captain. I could rock a kilt and be a captain, I think. Let me know. Now we're getting into our final two books, and this was the audiobook and the physical book that I was listening to on the first half of my honeymoon while I was traipsing around England. And the audiobook I finished first, and that is The Falconer. This was recommended to me by a really good friend who knows that, or who knew that I was going to Edinburgh and that all of my recent reads, surprise, were basically surrounding Scotland. So she said, Mackenzie, I have a romantasy. I think she called it a fantasy, and it is definitely more fantasy than romantasy, but there's some romance too. So I think I would call it a romantasy. She's like, I have a historical fantasy with a little bit of romance set in Edinburgh. It's called The Falconer. Now we have our female main character. And even though I listened to this book, I still don't think I can do justice her first name. So she is the Falconer. That is her job title, and that's what we're going to continue to call her. And she is a mortal woman who has been gifted with the sight and I believe some like extra healing abilities by an ancient Fae queen. So she herself wasn't necessarily blessed with this, but her family line was blessed with this. And her job is to make sure the Fae don't get out of line. There's this relationship between the Fae needing humans as like a food source, but also most humans don't have the sight and can't see the Fae. And it's kind of frowned upon, it seems like, in their society to just murder humans, which as a human I appreciate. So her job is to keep the Fae in line. And if there's a Fae running around doing bad things to humans, basically killing or feeding without consent, she takes care of it. Now she has a partner in crime, or a partner in justice, perhaps. And he is basically like a prince of the Fae, is how, in my mind, that's what I pictured him as. and he helps her. And he might have a tiny little bit of a crush on her. And that's all I'm going to say about their relationship, because I don't want to spoil anything. But if you enjoy a good historical fiction piece, if you like romantasy, if like fae is your cup of tea, please go check this out. It is a great book. It's recently been turned into an audiobook, which was absolutely amazing for me because I already said it once in this video, but I like my fantasy through audiobooks. And I ended up giving this 3.75 stars. If I remember correctly, this is a trilogy. I do think that I will finish it, but I have a couple of holds in from the library all at the same time. So I need to get through those first before I can go back and finish the last two books in this trilogy. But stay tuned because you'll probably hear from me by the end of this year, I imagine, with the completion of the trilogy. And here we are, already at the last book for August. I told you at the beginning this was going to be a super fast video because I just didn't read as much as I normally do. And that is Scottish Brides. Now, this book is actually 4 novellas into one book. So as a whole, I gave Scottish Brides, the book that has 4 novellas, 3.75 stars. And that is primarily because of the first novella. The first novella wasn't my cup of tea. It seemed they're all romances set in Scotland, and they're all period pieces. The reason that I was drawn to this is because Julia Quinn is the author of the third novella. So all similar vibes to what Julia Quinn normally produces. But the first novella just seemed, the romance seemed rushed, in my opinion. And there was just a scene where the female main character was like, no, I don't want to do this. I don't want to be trapped in this room with you. I don't want this. And the male main character is like, no, I know you do. I know you want this. I know you want me. And like, in the end, did she? Yes, but it just seemed too fast and too forced for my liking. And it made me really concerned because I was like, oh man, if this is how the rest of the novellas are going to be, what am I going to do? This is supposed to be like my last, like, super fun, I'm on my honeymoon reading about romance. And it was kind of, the first novella was a little bit of a letdown. Pivoting, the last 3 novellas were wonderful. They were all more back to like my speed of very cute romances. The relationships all seemed believable, even though they only had a less amount of pages to tell a complete story. The last 3 story relationships, I was just like, yes, I believe that you're in love and it makes sense. Even the final novella, the main characters meet and get married within, I think, like 48 hours of knowing each other. But even that felt more believable to me than the first novella. So that's just saying something. I would still recommend this, especially if you enjoy works of Julia Quinn, works like Julia Quinn. And maybe the first novella is your cup of tea. But if it's not, just go ahead and skip to the second novella, because I think 2, 3, and 4 were all very wonderful. And that's it. That's everything. I know it was a really short video, but the next several videos for September are all going to be much longer. My goal is to finish parts 2 and 3 of Lost the Plot, The Hunger Games, Sunrise on the Reaping. I actually have everything recorded. I had it recorded before we left on our honeymoon, but the editing, oh my gosh, took so much out of me. So I really need to dedicate probably 2 or 3 days to edit what I have recorded and to get it to a point that I'm satisfied with you all seeing it. Yeah, so that is not going to come out on the normal Tuesday release. That's going to come out hopefully before the end of September, maybe the beginning of October. We'll see how editing goes. But my goal is to just, when I finish it, maybe release it on a Thursday, just as a, hey, I'm really sorry that this took so long, but here's the rest of the video. And that'll be a very long video. So we have that coming up. Date TBD. We also have our interview with Melissa Holt, the author of An Enchanting Case of Spirits and A Charming Touch of Tarot. And oh my gosh, interviewing her was so much fun. She was so kind. I got so nervous talking to her because I really wanted to make a good impression that I started jumbling my words, and I combined her 2 book titles so many times before we eat, just when we were, hi, how's it going? This is how the interview is going to work. That in the interview, I didn't say either of her book titles. I was too nervous to. But she was just so lovely. And there will be some groundbreaking news at the end of that episode video regarding Melissa Holtz. So when that comes out, please go watch it. And yeah, I hope you enjoy this interview. And then finally, I think the last video of this month is going to be a vlog style, recap style video of all of the bookstores that I visited while I was in the UK. And there were a lot. There were a lot of bookstores. I think if you've made it this far in the video, thank you. Maybe comment below, how many books do you think I brought home with me from my trip to the UK with the knowledge that books are cheaper over there? And then wait 2 weeks and find out. I digress. But that's what we have coming out this month. And yeah, I just really enjoy doing this and shouting into the void about books with you all and tapping into this more creative side of me. And I want to thank you all for coming along this journey with me and watching me learn how to record videos and how to edit them and be proud of what I've learned. I think it's quite amazing that at 29 I can start a new hobby, and there are people out there who will support me. So just thank you all so very much. I hope that you are reading a great book. I hope that you have an amazing rest of your week. And if there are any new releases out today that you're excited for, I'm excited for you too. Bye.